The stars burned wrong tonight. Commander Sarah Chon pressed her face against the cold metal of the observation window and watched her world die below. New Terra had been her home for 32 years. She had grown up in the farming valleys, learned to fly in the blue skies, and sworn her oath to protect this place in the grand capital city. Now all of it was fire and smoke. The alien ships hung in space like dark beetles. They were massive things, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls looked wet and alive, covered in ridges and spines that pulsed with sickly green. Light. The biggest one was 3 miles long and shaped like a twisted spine. Admiral Zexthel's flagship. Sarah had memorized every detail from the intelligence reports. Not that the reports had helped anyone survive. Her ship, the U.E.'s Phantom, drifted silent in the shadow of an asteroid. The stealth systems kept her hidden, but they would not work forever. Sarah watched another transport try to escape the planet below. It was a civilian ship, full of families and children. The alien fighters swarmed it like angry wasps. Green energy beams cut through the transport's hull. It broke apart in a shower of metal and fire. No escape pods launched. There was no time. Sarah's hands shook as she gripped the control panel. She had watched this happen 6 times now. 6 transports destroyed. Hundreds of people dead in seconds. Her orders were clear. Observe and report. Do not engage. Wait for the fleet to arrive. But the fleet was not coming. The main human force was 3 days away, and by then there would be nothing left to save. The aliens called themselves the Kethvar Dominion. They had appeared at the edge of human space 8 months ago with their bioships and energy weapons. 12 worlds had fallen since then. Always the same pattern. The aliens arrived in overwhelming force, destroyed any resistance, and moved on. They took nothing. They wanted nothing except destruction. The communication system crackled to life. Sarah listened to the final transmissions from the planet below, military posts going silent one by one. Civilian emergency channels full of screens and static. Her old flight instructor, Captain Morrison, was leading the last fighter squadron. From Epsilon Base, his voice came through clear and steady, the way he had taught her to speak in combat. All units, this is Morrison. We are down to 3 birds. Aliens have breached the perimeter. Sarah, if you are listening up there, tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we fought. Tell them we did not surrender. The transmission ended. Sarah closed her eyes and counted to 10. When she opened them, the lights from Epsilon Base were gone. Morrison was dead. They were all dead. Admiral Zextel stood on the bridge of his flagship and felt satisfaction flow through his bio-enhanced nervous system. The humans had fought better than expected. Their primitive fusion drives and kinetic weapons showed creativity. But creativity meant nothing against superior technology. The Dominion's bioships could repair themselves. Their energy shields absorbed most human weapons. Their neural network allowed perfect coordination between thousands of vessels. This colony world had fallen in 18 hours. Not the fastest. Conquest, but acceptable. The human fighters had shown particular determination, flying their small craft against impossible odds. Zextel respected that, in the way a hunter respects dangerous prey, but respect did not change the outcome. Status. Report, Zextel commanded. His voice carried through the bioneural network to every ship in the fleet. All surface resistance eliminated, his second-in-command responded. Orbital defenses destroyed. 3 human ships escaped during the initial assault, but our sensors show no threats remaining in the system. Zextel nodded. The escaped ships would carry word of the defeat to the human core worlds. Fear was a useful weapon. When the Dominion arrived at Earth, the humans would already know that resistance was futile. Prepare the fleet for departure. We move to the Sol system in 6 hours. The bridge crew acknowledged the order. Bioorganic computers throughout the ship began calculating jump coordinates. In 6 hours, the Dominion would take one step closer to ending the human threat forever. Sarah floated in the dark between stars and made her choice. The Phantom was an experimental ship, built in secret yards and armed with weapons that existed nowhere else in the human fleet. Phantomatter warheads, quantum torpedoes, a jump drive that could fold space in ways the aliens had never seen. She was supposed to test these weapons in controlled conditions, not use them in actual combat. But controlled conditions no longer existed. She activated the ship's computer and began pulling up star charts. The alien fleet was heading for the Sol system. Earth. 2 billion people lived there, along with the orbital shipyards and military academies. If Earth fell, humanity died with it. The main human fleet was moving to intercept, but they would arrive too late. Admiral Harrison's ships were tough but old. They used conventional weapons and tactics. Against the Dominion's technology, conventional was another word for suicide. Sarah plotted an intercept course. The Phantom could reach the alien fleet in 2 days if she pushed the engines past safety limits. She would have to shadow them, study their movements, find some weakness that the other battles had missed. The smart thing would be to rejoin the human fleet, share her intelligence, fight as part of a coordinated force. But Sarah was not feeling smart. She was feeling angry. The images from New Terra played in her mind on endless repeat. The burning cities, the destroyed transports, Morrison's last transmission. She thought about Earth's blue skies and white clouds, about her sister's children who sent her drawings of spaceships and aliens, about all the people who trusted the human fleet to protect them. The Phantom's engines came online with a whisper of contained fusion. Sarah fed power to the stealth systems and began accelerating toward the edge of the system. Behind her, New Terra continued to burn. Ahead, the alien fleet moved through space like a swarm of predators. Confident in their power, Sarah checked her weapons one more time. 12 antimatter warheads, 36 quantum torpedoes, enough firepower to level a city. Against 300 alien ships, it seemed like nothing. But humans had always been good at making nothing into something, at finding ways to win when winning was impossible. The computer finished calculating her pursuit course. Sarah engaged the autopilot and settled back in her chair. She had 48 hours to figure out how to stop an entire alien fleet with one experimental ship. Most people would call it suicide. Sarah called it Tuesday. The stars looked normal again from this distance. Clean points of light against black space. But Sarah knew the truth now. In those clean points of light, people were dying, ships were burning, worlds were falling. The Kethver Dominion was spreading across the galaxy like a disease, and the only cure was firepower. Sarah smiled for the first time since New Terra. The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They thought humans would break under pressure. They thought superior technology meant automatic victory. They had never faced a human with nothing left to lose. The Phantom slipped into hyperspace like a ghost, following the trail of the alien fleet. Behind her, New Terra's star grew small and distant. Ahead, somewhere in the dark, 300 alien ships moved toward Earth. They did not know they were being hunted. They would learn soon enough. The Phantom caught up with the alien fleet on the second day. Sarah watched from the edge of sensor range as 300 Kethver ships moved through space in perfect formation. They traveled in a massive diamond shape, with the biggest warships at the center and smaller vessels protecting the flanks. Every ship moved in harmony with the others, like parts of a single living creature. Sarah had never seen anything like it. Human fleets were organized, but flexible. Captains made there. own decisions. Ships broke formation when needed. But the aliens moved as one mind controlling many bodies. Their bio-neural network linked every vessel, every weapon, every thought. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She spent the first day just watching and learning. The alien formation never changed. The same ships always held the same positions. The same patrol routes repeated every 6 hours. They were efficient, but efficiency could become predictability. And predictable enemies could be beaten. Sarah pulled up the intelligence files on her computer. The Dominion had conquered 12 human worlds using the same tactics every time. Overwhelming force applied to the strongest defenses first. Destroy the orbital platforms, eliminate the fleet, then crush ground resistance. They never divided their forces, never used subtlety or deception. They did not need to. Their technology was superior to anything humans could build. But Sarah was beginning to see the weakness in that strength. The aliens fought like a hammer, big, powerful, unstoppable. But hammers only worked when the nail stayed still. What happened? When the nail moved? The first supply convoy arrived on the third day. Sarah watched 6 medium-sized ships drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They were carrying fuel and ammunition for the main fleet. Standard procedure, according to the intelligence reports. The Dominion could not carry enough supplies for extended campaigns, so they used regular convoys to keep their forces fed. The supply ships moved toward the main fleet in a straight line. No escorts, no evasive maneuvers. Why would they need protection? They were in Dominion space now. New Terra was conquered. The human fleet was days away. Nothing could threaten them here. Sarah smiled and powered up her weapons. The first quantum torpedo hit the lead supply ship before its crew knew they were under attack. The ship exploded in a burst of blue fire, its cargo of antimatter fuel adding to the destruction. The second torpedo took out another transport before the aliens could react. By the time their shields came online, Sarah was already gone, jumping back into hyperspace. The attack lasted 30 seconds. 2 ships destroyed, 4 damaged, 0 human casualties. Sarah checked her instruments as the Phantom raced away from the battle zone. All systems green, stealth field holding. The aliens had not even gotten a clear sensor reading on her ship. Admiral Zexthul felt the shock of the attack through the bio-neural network. 2 supply ships gone. The humans had found them somehow. But how? His sensors showed nothing in the system except debris and his own fleet. The attacking ship had appeared from nowhere, struck without warning, and vanished like smoke. Analysis, he demanded. His tactical officer was already reviewing the data. Single attacker. Small ship, probably a human frigate or destroyer. Advanced. Stealth systems. They used quantum torpedoes, which suggests experimental technology. How did they find our supply convoy? Unknown. The convoy followed standard routes and procedures. They should have been undetectable. Zexthul studied the tactical display. The supply ships had been at the edge of the system, far from his main force. For a human ship to attack them, it would have to be operating alone, without fleet support. That was suicide. Humans were emotional creatures, but they were not usually stupid. Double the sensor sweeps, he ordered. I want every cubic meter of space monitored. This ghost ship will not escape again. Sarah struck again 6 hours later. This time the target was a patrol group, 3 destroyers searching for her previous position. She came at them from below, using a gas giant's gravity well to mask her approach. The patrol ships were spread out in a search pattern, their shields down to conserve power. The attack was over before it began. Sarah's antimatter warheads punched through unshielded hull plating like bullets through paper. 2 destroyers died instantly. The third managed to get a distress signal out before Sarah's final torpedo found its mark. But this time, the aliens were ready. Fighter squadrons launched from the main fleet, racing toward the battle zone. Sarah barely escaped, her stealth field flickering under the strain of rapid acceleration. Alien energy beams passed close enough to heat her hull plating. She made it to hyperspace with seconds to spare, but the message was clear. The aliens were learning. The next attack would be harder got. Sarah floated in the dark between stars and planned her next move. She had sunk 5 enemy ships in 2 attacks, but the main fleet was barely scratched. 300 ships remained, and they were now on high alert. Their patrols had doubled. Their sensor sweeps overlapped. Finding gaps in their defenses would be much harder now, but Sarah had learned things too. The alien ships were powerful, but slow to react. Their perfect coordination became confusion when unexpected things happened. And most importantly, they thought like conquerors, not like defenders. They were used to being the hunters, not the hunted. The next convoy arrived. 18 hours later. This time it had escorts. 12 warships surrounded the supply vessels in a protective formation. Sensors swept space constantly. Fighter patrols circled the convoy like guard dogs. Sarah watched from 1,000,000 kilometers away and smiled. The aliens were adapting, but they were still thinking like a hammer. More ships, bigger guns, stronger shields. They could not imagine a nail. It refused to stay still. She programmed her ship's computer with a new attack pattern. Instead of hitting the convoy directly, she would target its escorts first, draw them away from the supply ships, make them chase shadows while she struck from unexpected angles. The attack began with a single torpedo fired from extreme range. It missed the convoy entirely, exploding harmlessly in empty space. But the aliens reacted as Sarah had hoped. Half the escort fleet raced toward the source of the attack, leaving the convoy temporarily weakened. Sarah was already moving. While the escorts chased sensor ghosts, she came at the convoy from the opposite direction. Her quantum torpedoes found their targets before the alien crews could adjust. 3 supply ships died in the first salvo. Sarah was gone before the escorts could return, but she was not finished. As the alien ships regrouped around their damaged convoy, Sarah struck again, from a third angle. This time she used her ship's experimental railguns, firing metal slugs at incredible velocity. The escort's energy shields were designed to stop beam weapons, not solid projectiles. The railgun rounds punched through their defenses and shattered. Their hull plating docked by the time the attack ended. 7 alien ships were dead or dying. The convoy was destroyed, and Sarah had vanished into hyperspace once again, leaving only wreckage and confusion behind. Admiral Zexthul stared at the casualty reports and felt something new flowing through the bioneural network. Not anger or frustration, but something colder, fear. His subordinates were beginning to doubt. The Dominion had never faced an enemy like this. Ships that appeared from nowhere, attacks without warning, a foe that refused to stand and fight. How many ships have we lost? He asked. 12 confirmed destroyed, 8 damaged, his tactical officer replied. The human is targeting our supply lines and patrol groups. Our main fleet remains intact, but morale is declining. 12 ships against a single human vessel. It was impossible, but the evidence floated in space around them. Zexthul had commanded fleets for 30 years. He had conquered worlds and shattered enemy armadas. But he had never faced an enemy that fought like this. Set course for the Sol system, he ordered. Maximum speed. We will end this threat before it grows. But even as his fleet jumped toward Earth, Zexthul knew the truth. The threat had already grown. Somewhere in the dark between stars, a single human ship was hunting his forces. And for the first time in his long career, Admiral Zexthiel was not sure who was predator and who was prey. Sarah had been hunting the alien fleet for 8 days when she discovered their secret. It happened by accident during her 50th attack on a Dominion patrol group. Her sensors picked up something strange when the alien ships tried to coordinate. Their response: energy patterns that looked like quantum communications, but much more complex. She recorded everything and analyzed the data while hiding in an asteroid field. What she found changed everything. The alien fleet was not just organized, it was connected. Every ship in the Dominion force shared the same mind through quantum entanglement communicators. That was why they moved in perfect formation. Why their attacks were so coordinated. Why they never made tactical mistakes. But it was also their greatest weakness. Sarah pulled up the technical specifications on her computer screen. The quantum communicators required specialized hardware, massive processors that could handle thousands of simultaneous connections. According to her analysis, only the largest ships in the fleet could carry such equipment. The command vessels at the center of the formation, she counted them carefully. 7 ships, each over 2 miles long. They looked different from the other. Alien vessels, more organic, more alive. Their hulls pulsed with the same energy patterns her sensors had detected during the battle. These were the brains of the Dominion fleet. Destroy them, and the entire force would become blind and deaf. But reaching them would be impossible. A command ship stayed at the very heart of the formation, surrounded by layers of escorts and defensive screens. Hundreds of smaller vessels protected them like antibodies protecting vital organs. Sarah had been picking off stragglers and supply convoys for over a week, but she had never gotten within 50 kilometers of the fleet's center. She needed a new plan. Something desperate and dangerous. Something the aliens would never expect, because no sane person would attempt it. Sarah smiled and began calculating suicide odds. The human fleet finally arrived at the edge of the Sol system 2 days later. Admiral Harrison's forces looked impressive. On paper, 47 warships, including 6 heavy battlecruisers and the flagship UES Defiance. But Sarah knew the truth. She had watched the Dominion destroy fleets twice that size. Human weapons were primitive compared to alien technology. Human armor could not stop their energy beams. In a straight fight, the aliens would win. Sarah opened a communication channel to the human fleet. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on her screen, looking tired and worried. Behind him, the bridge of the Defiance buzzed with activity as officers. "Prepared for battle, Commander Chun," Harrison said. "We've been tracking your attacks on the alien fleet. Impressive work, but you should rejoin the formation now. We'll need every ship for the coming battle." Sarah shook her head. "With respect, Admiral, the fleet can't win this fight. Not with conventional tactics. I've been studying the aliens for 8 days. I know how they work." She transmitted her data to the Defiance. Harrison's expression grew more troubled as he reviewed her findings. The quantum communication network, the command ships, the perfect coordination that made the Dominion fleet so deadly. "You're suggesting we target their command vessels," Harrison said, "but they're too well protected. We'd lose half our ships just getting close enough to fire." "You would," Sarah agreed, "but I might not. The Phantom has experimental stealth systems and weapons they've never seen before. I can get close if I use everything the ship has." Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Sarah could see him doing the math. 1 experimental frigate against 7 command ships and their escorts. The odds were beyond hopeless. "What exactly are you proposing, Commander?" Sarah took a deep breath. "A suicide run. I load every antimatter warhead the Phantom carries and take them straight to the heart of their formation. If I can destroy even a few command ships, their coordination will break down. Your fleet might have a chance. Absolutely not. I won't order a suicide mission. You're not ordering it, Admiral. I'm volunteering. The silence stretched between them. Finally, Harrison spoke again. His voice was softer now, almost fatherly. Sarah, you've done more than enough already. Come home. Let the fleet handle this. Sarah looked at her tactical display. The alien fleet was 12 hours away from Earth. 2 billion people lived on humanity's homeworld. Her sister's children were down there, probably looking up at the stars and wondering when the fighting would end. They trusted the human fleet to protect them. But Sarah knew the fleet could not win alone. I'm sorry, Admiral, she said, but I have my orders. What orders? You've been operating independently for over a week, Sarah smiled sadly. The orders Captain Morrison gave me before he died. Tell Earth what happened at New Terra. Tell them we fought. Tell them we didn't surrender. She paused. I'm going to tell them with firepower. She cut the communication before Harrison could reply. The Phantom turned away from the human fleet and began accelerating toward the center of the solar system. Behind her, 47 human warships moved into defensive positions around Earth. Ahead, 300 alien vessels continued their approach. Like a swarm of mechanical locusts, Sarah spent the next 6 hours preparing for death. She programmed the ship's computer with attack patterns and target priorities. She armed every weapon the Phantom carried. 12 antimatter warheads, 30 quantum torpedoes, experimental railguns loaded with depleted uranium slugs. Enough firepower to crack a moon dot. She also recorded a message to her sister back on Earth, just in case someone found the ship's black box after the battle. She kept it simple, told her she loved her, told her to take care of the kids, told her that dying for family was not really dying at all. The alien fleet reached Earth's outer system at 1400 hours, ship time. Sarah watched from the shadow of Jupiter's largest moon as the Dominion forces spread into attack formation. They moved with the same perfect coordination she had observed for 8 days. Every ship in its assigned position, every weapon powered and ready. Admiral Zexthil's flagship led the formation, its bioorganic hull pulsing with sickly green light. Sarah could see the other command ships arranged around it like points of a star. 7 targets, 7 chances to cripple the alien force. 7 reasons to push her ship past every safety limit and prey the antimatter warheads. Held together long enough to reach their targets, she activated the Phantom's stealth systems and began her final approach. The experimental drive pushed space around the ship, bending light and gravity to hide her passage. For the first few minutes, it worked perfectly. Sarah slipped between the alien patrol groups like a ghost, invisible to their sensors. But stealth had limits. The closer she got to the fleet's center, the more energy her systems consumed. The more energy they consumed, the harder it became to hide the ship's signature. By the time Sarah reached the outer defensive screen, alien sensors were starting to detect anomalies. Warning lights flashed on her control panel. The stealth field was fluctuating. In another few minutes, it would fail completely. Sarah looked at her tactical display and measured the distance to the command ships. Still too far for a guaranteed hit with the antimatter warheads, but close enough to cause serious damage if she could just get a little nearer. She rerouted power from life support to the stealth systems. The air in her cabin grew cold as the environmental controls shut down. But the stealth field stabilized, buying her precious extra minutes. An alien patrol destroyer passed within 500 meters of her ship, so close that Sarah could see the biomechanical details of its hull through the observation window. Weapon pods that looked like enormous eyes, sensor arrays that resembled insect antennae. The ship was beautiful in an alien way, but Sarah felt no admiration. Only cold determination. The destroyer moved past without detecting her. Sarah pushed deeper into the formation, past cruisers and battleships that could have vaporized her ship with a single shot. Each kilometer brought her closer to the command vessels. Each second brought her closer to the point of no return. Finally, she reached optimal firing range. The 7 command ships floated before her like sleeping giants, their hulls alive with quantum energy. Sarah armed her antimatter warheads and programmed the firing sequence. In 30 seconds, she would reveal her position and begin the attack. After that, there would be no retreat, no escape, no second chances. Sarah thought about New Terra burning, about Morrison's last transmission, about her sister's children looking up at the stars. She thought about 2 billion people on Earth who were depending on her to buy them time. 30 seconds became 20, then 10, then 5. Sarah whispered a prayer to whatever gods, watched over crazy pilots, and pressed the firing button. The war was about to change forever. The first antimatter warhead left the Phantom's launch tube at exactly 14:37 hours. Sarah watched it streak toward the nearest command ship like a miniature star, its containment field glowing white-hot against the darkness of space. For 3 seconds, everything was silent. Then the alien sensors found her. Alarms screamed through the Dominion fleet as the Phantom's stealth field collapsed. Energy readings spiked across every alien instrument as Sarah's ship revealed itself in a blaze of weapons fire. The single human frigate hung in space like a bright angel of death, surrounded by 300 enemy vessels. Admiral Zexthul felt the shock wave through his bioneural implants as the first warhead struck. The command ship Nexus Prime simply vanished in a ball of pure energy, taking its quantum communicators and 3,000 crew members with it. Instantly, 50 ships in the fleet's northern sector went silent, their connection to the network severed. All vessels, target the human ship, Zexthul roared. Destroy it now. But Sarah was already moving. The Phantom's experimental drive kicked in with a sound like thunder, pushing the ship through space at impossible speed. She rolled between 2 battle cruisers as their energy beams carved through the space where she had been. Her second antimatter warhead launched while she was still in the turn, racing toward another command vessel. The aliens were fast, but Sarah was faster. She had spent 8 days studying their movements, learning their patterns. She knew exactly how long it took their weapons to charge, how quickly their ships could turn, how their targeting systems worked. All of that knowledge flowed through her mind as she danced between their attacks. The second warhead found its target just as Sarah completed her turn. Command ship Void Seeker exploded like a dying sun, its bioorganic hull peeling away in layers of fire and metal. Another 100 ships lost their connection to the network. The perfect Dominion formation began to wobble as disconnected vessels tried to coordinate on their own. Sarah's ship screamed through the gap left by the destroyed command vessel. Alien fighters swarmed after her like angry insects, their green energy beams lighting up space around her. One beam grazed her starboard hull, overloading several systems. Warning lights flashed red across her control panel, but Sarah ignored them. She had bigger problems. A battlecruiser loomed directly ahead, its massive bulk blocking her path to the next command ship. Its main guns were already turning toward her, preparing to fire. At this range, even a glancing hit would vaporize the Phantom. Sarah had perhaps 2 seconds before those guns found their mark. She did something the aliens never expected. Instead of trying to dodge around the battlecruiser, she flew straight at it. Her railguns opened fire at point-blank range, sending depleted uranium slugs through the alien ship's armor like bullets through tissue paper. The battlecruiser's shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid projectiles traveling at relativistic speed, The railgun rounds punched through the ship's hull and detonated inside its reactor core. The battlecruiser died in a chain reaction of explosions that lit up half the fleet. Sarah flew through the expanding debris field, using the wreckage as cover from pursuing fighters. Her third antimatter warhead launched as she cleared the debris. This one targeted the largest command ship, a massive vessel that looked more like a living creature than a machine. Its bioorganic hull writhed and pulsed as the warhead approached, defensive systems trying desperately to intercept the projectile. They failed. The warhead penetrated the ship's shields and detonated deep inside its core structure. The explosion tore the vessel apart from within, sending chunks of alien metal spinning through space. Sarah felt a moment of savage satisfaction as she watched it die. 3 command ships down. 4 to go, but the aliens were learning. The remaining command vessels began moving deeper into the formation, surrounding themselves with protective screens of smaller ships. Their coordination was breaking down, but they still had overwhelming firepower. Sarah's ship could not survive much more damage. She looked at her instrument panel and saw the truth written in red warning lights. Hull. Breaches on 3 decks. Primary power down to 60%. Stealth systems completely offline. Life support failing. The Phantom was dying around her, but it still had teeth. Sarah armed her quantum torpedoes and selected rapid-fire mode. Instead of trying to penetrate the defensive screens around the command ships, she would go through them. The torpedoes streaked out in waves of 6, each one programmed to target a different escort vessel. The aliens had never seen weapons like these before. Their shields flickered and failed as exotic matter warheads detonated against their hulls. A path opened through the defensive screen. Sarah pushed her dying ship through the gap, racing toward the 4th command vessel. This one was ready for her. Its main guns fired in perfect synchronization, filling space with deadly energy beams. Sarah rolled and twisted, trying to avoid the barrage, but there were too many weapons. Too much firepower. One beam caught her port engine, vaporizing the entire drive section. The Phantom tumbled out of control, spinning through space like a broken toy. Sarah fought to regain control as more beams reached for her ship. Emergency power flickered on just long enough to stabilize her flight path. She was too close to the command ship now. Too close to miss. Her 4th antimatter warhead launched at almost point-blank range, crossing the distance between ships in less than a second. The command vessel tried to turn away, but momentum is a harsh master. The warhead struck its forward section and detonated. The explosion was so bright that Sarah had to shield her eyes. When her vision cleared, the command ship was gone. Only expanding plasma marked where it had been. 4 down, 3 to go, but the Phantom was finished. Her engines were dead. Her weapons systems were failing, and the remaining alien ships were closing in from all sides. Sarah ejected her remaining antimatter warheads and set them for proximity detonation. If she could not reach the last command ships, maybe she could at least damage them when the aliens finally killed her. The warheads drifted away from her ship like deadly seeds, waiting for enemy vessels to come within range. Admiral Zextel watched the human ship tumble helplessly through space and felt something he had never experienced before. Respect mixed with terror. One small vessel had destroyed 4 command ships and dozens of escorts. The bio-neural network was in chaos. Ships were firing at shadows. Formations had collapsed into confused clusters. The mighty Dominion fleet was falling apart. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. 87 confirmed destroyed, his tactical officer replied. 43 more damaged. The human vessel appears to be disabled, but our sensors detect multiple antimatter signatures around it. Zexthal understood. The human pilot had set a trap. The warheads floating around her ship would detonate if anyone got too close, but they could not stay away forever. The human threat had to be eliminated. "Send in the fighters," he ordered. "Destroy that ship from long range." But even as he gave the order, Zexthel knew the damage was done. The perfect coordination that made the Dominion unstoppable was broken. His fleet was still powerful, but it was no longer invincible. And somewhere in the distance, he could see the human reinforcement fleet moving into attack position. Sarah watched the alien fighters approach and prepared for the end. Her ship was dead in space, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. She had done the impossible. One human vessel against 300 alien ships. 4 command vessels destroyed. The enemy formation shattered. She thought about Morrison's last words. "Tell them we fought. Tell them we didn't surrender." Sarah smiled as the first fighter missiles reached her position. She had told them with firepower, just as she promised. The Phantom died in a ball of fire and light, taking Sarah Chun with it, but her sacrifice had changed everything. The Dominion fleet was blind and confused, no longer the perfect weapon. It had been, and in the distance, 47 human warships accelerated toward battle, ready to finish what one brave pilot had started. The real fight was about to begin. The death of the Phantom sent shockwaves through both fleets. Admiral Harrison watched from the bridge of the Defiance as Sarah's ship vanished in a ball of fire. For a moment, silence filled the human command center. Then the tactical officer spoke, his voice filled with wonder. "Admiral, look at the alien formation. It's falling apart." Harrison turned to the main display and saw something impossible. The Dominion fleet, which had moved in perfect coordination for 8 days, was now scattered across space like broken toys. Ships drifted out of position. Some vessels fired at empty space, targeting sensor ghosts. Others simply stopped moving, as if their crews had forgotten what they were supposed to do. "Commander Chun was right," Harrison whispered. "She broke their network." In the center of the alien formation, Admiral Zexthel felt his perfect war machine dying around him. The bio-neural network that connected his ships was in chaos. With 4 command vessels destroyed, huge sections of the fleet have lost all coordination. Ship captains who had never made independent decisions suddenly found themselves alone in the dark. "Restore communications with the outer squadrons," Zexthel ordered. "Impossible, Admiral," his communications officer replied. "The quantum relays are gone. We can only maintain contact with ships within 50 kilometers. 50 kilometers. In a formation that stretched across thousands of kilometers of space, that meant most of his fleet was operating blind. The Dominion's greatest strength had become its greatest weakness. Ships that had never learned to think for themselves now faced human forces without guidance or support. All vessels maintained defensive positions. Zexthel broadcast on standard radio frequencies. But radio was slow and limited. Many ships would never receive the message. Others would not know how to follow it. Admiral Harrison seized the moment. "All ships, attack formation Delta 7. Target the disconnected vessels first. Show them what humans can do when we fight together." The human fleet moved forward like a pack of wolves. 47 ships against almost 300 aliens. The odds were still terrible, but everything had changed. The aliens were no longer a single coordinated force. They were individual ships, confused and isolated. The U's Defiance led the charge, its heavy guns blazing. Harrison had chosen his target carefully. A cluster of alien destroyers that had drifted away from the main formation, their crews clearly unsure what to do without network guidance. The human battle cruiser's missiles struck home before the alien ships could react. 3 destroyers died in the opening salvo. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human captains, trained to think independently and adapt quickly, found isolated alien vessels and destroyed them one by one. The aliens' superior technology meant nothing when they could not coordinate their defense. Captain Rodriguez of the cruiser Valiant found a group of alien fighters attacking empty space. Their targeting systems locked onto phantom contacts from their damaged network. His ship's point defense systems made short work of the confused fighters. Captain Singh of the destroyer Thunderbolt used her ship's speed to dart between alien battleships, striking at their engines before they could bring their main guns to bear. But the real breakthrough came when Lieutenant Commander Torres of the corvette Raptor discovered something extraordinary. A group of alien ships in the northern sector had begun firing on each other. Their damaged network was sending conflicting signals, making them see allies as enemies. Admiral Harrison, Torres reported over the con system. "You need to see this. The aliens are shooting at their own ships." Harrison watched in amazement as alien vessel after alien vessel turned their weapons on former allies. The bioneural network that had made them invincible was now making them destroy themselves. Ships that had fought together for years suddenly saw each other as threats. "All vessels, stay clear of the alien confusion zones," Harrison ordered. "Let them finish each other off." Admiral Zextol saw his fleet tearing itself apart and felt something break inside his mind. 50 years of military service, 30 successful campaigns, 12 conquered worlds. All of it undone by a single human pilot and her experimental ship. The Dominion's technological superiority meant nothing without coordination. Their bio-enhanced crews were helpless without network guidance. "Sir," his tactical officer said, quietly, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 vessels. Their captains want to disconnect from the network before it drives them insane. Surrender." The word was foreign to Zexthel's experience. The Dominion did not surrender. They conquered or they died. But watching his fleet destroy itself, the Admiral began to understand why some species chose submission over annihilation. "Patch me through to the human fleet," he said. The communication came through on the Defiance's main channel. Admiral Harrison found himself staring at an alien face. For the first time, Zextel looked almost human, except for the biomechanical implants covering half his skull and the yellow eyes that seemed to glow with their own light. "I am Admiral Zextel of the Kethver Dominion," the alien said. His voice was strangely melodic, like wind through crystal caves. "I wish to speak with whoever commands your forces." "Admiral Harrison, United Earth Defense Force. What do you want?" Zextel was quiet for a long moment, watching his ships continue to fire on each other in the background. "I want to understand," he said finally. "We destroyed your colonies. We killed your people. We came here expecting easy victory. But one of your ships turned our greatest strength against us. How?" Harrison thought about Sarah Chun, who had died alone in the dark between stars. About Morrison and the other defenders of New Terra. About all the humans who had refused to surrender even when victory seemed impossible. "You made one mistake, Admiral," Harrison said. "You thought superior technology guaranteed victory. But you forgot something important about humans." "What?" "We don't know when to quit. Even when we're outnumbered. Even when we're outgunned. Even when every logical calculation says we should surrender. We keep fighting because that's what humans do. We adapt. We improvise. We never give up." On the tactical display, the last organized alien resistance was crumbling. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for months were now fleeing in panic or begging for mercy. The mighty Dominion fleet was broken. "Your pilot," Zextel said, "the one who destroyed our command ships." She knew it was suicide. Commander Chun volunteered for that mission. No one ordered her to die. She chose to sacrifice herself to save others. That's another thing about humans, Admiral. Sometimes our greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our willingness to pay any price to protect the people we love. Zexthel closed his eyes and felt the weight of defeat settle on his shoulders. The Dominion had conquered 12 worlds by relying on superior coordination and overwhelming force. They had never faced an enemy that fought with pure determination. An enemy that turned disadvantages into advantages. An enemy that refused to accept defeat even when it seemed inevitable. I formally surrender my remaining forces to your command, Zexthel said. We will not resist further. Harrison nodded. Around them, the battle was already ending. Alien ships were powering down their weapons and broadcasting surrender codes. The Dominion's invasion of human space was overdone in the hours that followed. Rescue teams found the Phantom's black box floating in the debris field where Sarah had made her last stand. They recovered her final message to her sister and her tactical logs showing how she had planned the impossible attack. The data would help human engineers understand alien technology and develop new defenses. But more importantly, they recovered something else. Proof that a single human, armed with nothing but courage and determination, had turned the tide of an interstellar war. The galaxy learned that day why humans were dangerous, not because of their weapons or their technology, but because of their refusal to surrender. Even when faced with impossible odds, Sarah Chon had kept her promise to Captain Morrison. She had told Earth's story with firepower. She had shown the galaxy that humans fight hardest when they have nothing left to lose. And in doing so, she had saved not just Earth, but the future of human civilization among the stars. The war was over. Humanity had won. And across the galaxy, other species began to learn what the Kethver Dominion had discovered too late. When you threaten a human's family, you don't just face their technology. You face their fury. And that fury, once unleashed, can break even the mightiest fleet.